Okay, so the Knights Templar is one of my favorite stories in history. I'm going to ramble about them for the next 3 minutes. The Knights Templar's origins stem from the First Crusade when the Christians will overtake Jerusalem and the Holy Land. After that, many pilgrims from Europe are going to want to visit, but many of these pilgrims get robbed on the way there. Hugh de Payens is a French knight from the Champagne region of France. Him and his 7 buddies decide that they're going to protect these pilgrims. This will eventually lead to them becoming the Knights Templar. Their original name is much longer than that. Look into that. Their original seal also is 2 knights riding a horse, implying that they were very poor. They're going to gain their fame after Pope Baldwin II goes ahead and lets them stay at the Temple Mount, which is the old Temple of Solomon. That's like getting a 5-star hotel because the Temple of Solomon is linked to so much religious importance. The Knights Templar will actually excavate the Temple of Solomon, and they themselves are linked to religious relics, famously the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, and the head of John the Baptist, among more. Now, they're also going to gain immense popularity when they are endorsed by Bernard of Clairvaux, who was a very famous religious person at the time. The Knights Templar, as you can see here, are also the premier fighting force for the time period and are going to fight in a handful of battles for the Christians, defeating people like Saladin a handful of times. They're going to own an extensive array of castles, at one point over 800 all throughout Europe, and they're going to become very wealthy, which in a way is a little bit ironic because to become a member of the Templar Order, you have to swear chastity, poverty, piety, and all of this stuff. It's eventually going to lead to their downfall and get them into a bunch of trouble. They are famous also for this cross on the white tunic. Different factions actually had different crosses. The Templars were, again, an immense fighting force. They could not retreat in battle unless the flag had fallen or they were outnumbered over 3-1, and you were not allowed to be ransomed. You had to be killed upon the battle if you were to give up. So they were absolutely terrifying. They also would have had the best equipment in their day because, again, they get endorsed by so many people. This was like your Marines of the time period. Now, their downfall is pretty quick. Much like their uprising, it's just kind of a flash in the pan. They're around for a couple hundred years, and then they fall. Their immense wealth led them to giving out different loans. They were basically the medieval bankers, and you can get way into that. One person that they're going to loan a ton of money to is Philip IV of France, who is the king. He cannot pay back many of these debts, so on Friday the 13th of 1314, it's in that range, he will actually have them rounded up and arrested. Famously, Jacques de Molay, the Grand Master of the time, he is being burned at the stake, and he swears that Philip IV will die by the year's end. Philip IV dies in a boar accident not too long after. Anyways, there's so much more I could talk about these guys. It's one of my favorite stories. I'm running out of time. But always, hopefully you learned something. Love you all.